Hello everyone, so the mic quality of this video might be a little off because I started editing in the middle of it and then ended up getting a microphone partway through, so some sections might sound a little bit better than other sections, so I hope you guys can bear with that, but without further ado, let's get on with it. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the V-Rage channel where we consistently upload things. Okay, so yeah, I've been away for a while. I have updates, I graduated college, and have no discernible future to speak of, which means I'm free to make videos. So I will be returning to making Demon Slayer content. I actually have a video currently in the works, but wanted to start with something to ease me back into content, and what better way to do that than with Jujutsu Kaisen, which definitely is easy to talk about and not at all complicated, and no, I do not regret starting with this video, I don't. Important thing to note before we start: if you like my sprite, you should subscribe to Esperoba, who made it, and give her lots of love. She makes incredible animations and also is a really cool streamer who gives out great vibes and is a delightful person in general and incredibly talented, as you can see. So without further ado, let's get started, and at the end I will talk about video ideas I have and see what everyone may be interested in. I should also mention a lot of research I did for this video was about things that may be new to me that I was eager to learn more about and very excited to learn about, but very well may have missed a lot of things, and I encourage people to talk about anything, as I like to keep the floor open for discussion, especially for stories left up to interpretation like Jujutsu Kaisen is. Also, it's really riddled with symbolism, so you know, that's another part of it. So just remember, be nice and polite when interacting with others. Alright, let's get started. Spoilers for like all of the Jujutsu Kaisen manga. Please don't watch if you're avoiding spoilers, but come back if you watch it, please, because, you know, come back if you read it, actually, because it's manga spoilers as of 2025, January. Yeah, okay, so anyway, onto the video. So as far as Jujutsu Kaisen goes, I can be a bit on it at times. I think the parts it nails, but its low points are really low. But at the same time, the way I feel about it isn't coming from a place of disdain or malice. It comes from a place of, I know how great you can be, I wish you kept it up. And an arc that I think really encapsulates this idea is Hidden Inventory arc. One I believe is the very heart of the story, despite being so short. I mean, it's got a little bit of everything there. We've got unrequited love, we've got tragedy, we got intense PTSD scenes, we got development and regression, we've got the best deadbeat father ever. Not as father, but as a character. We got cult leaders, we got philosophy, we got the iconic quotes. Is it the best art because it's the strongest, or is it the strongest because it's the best art? Okay, so that's cringe, sorry. I think just for fun, and just in case there's someone here who is, for some reason, just wanting to listen to a video, and they picked my video, and if that's you, thank you. But for anyone who knows nothing about Jujutsu Kaisen, this summary isn't necessarily for you, but I'm gonna go over an unhinged little summary about specifically Hidden Inventory arc, as well as Premature Death, which, same arc. Oh, and a little bit of Jujutsu Kaisen 0. For those of you who might notice throughout this video, I discuss a final arc that I particularly don't care for. Don't worry about it. It's not important for this video for the most part, but you might hear me complain. Don't worry. So, relax, just listen to me give a very unhinged summary of only one arc of the story, plus a movie. So, in Hidden Inventory arc, we start out with the Gojo origin story, is really what it is. But it's also whenever you first see Geto on the side of good. Throughout the story previously, we have only seen him with stitches in his head, and he's been incredibly evil, while Gojo has been painted as the good guy. But throughout Hidden Inventory in the origin story, you see that these two moral ideas are flipped, because Geto believes in helping people who need it, who are weaker than them because they're considered the strongest people together. Gojo, on the other hand,
does not feel this way. I'm gonna give a heads up, my cat is here, and she looks like she wishes to speak on the matter. If you hear her in the background, that is why. She has a lot to say. She really likes this arc too, very clearly. There she goes. You see these two moral ideas flipped on their heads, and this all comes to an abrupt kind of pull whenever their teacher, Yaga, brings up that he needs their help, or the government heads, basically, of Jujutsu Kaisen's world, the higher-ups, require them, 2 high school students, to do a very important mission for them, because they are still considered the strongest people. Not corrupt at all. Not corrupt at all. Thank you, society. This is something that Jujutsu Kaisen does kind of touch on, that society is meant to be very corrupt in this universe. So, you know, don't worry about that too much. They are tasked to bring a girl with them who is going to be forced to assimilate with another person, basically erasing her from existence to ensure that this other person exists, because they are very important to the lore of Jujutsu Kaisen. Morals aside, these two agree to protecting this young girl who is 14. Meanwhile, there is a side plot going on with a basically bounty hunter who mostly does nothing but does the hunting to try to get money and then gambles it all away, named Toji Fushiguro, who is the father of a character in the main plot of Jujutsu Kaisen. That's not necessarily important to the overall understanding of this video, however, but he himself is basically morally bankrupt on a number of levels for different reasons, and he is essentially trying to hunt down this girl and kill her so that she can't assimilate for money, which, you know, pop off king, I suppose. Whenever things start to calm down and Gojo and Geto bring the girl back, the girl's name is Riko, I did not bring that up, but that's who it is. Not to be confused with Rika, who is going to come up later, and they are 2 different people. Riko herself is the girl who is being forced to assimilate. Kind of abruptly, Toji arrives, and they discover that he is strong enough to kind of go head-to-head with Gojo, who is meant to be one of the strongest people. Geto takes Riko to try to get her to the place that they're trying to get her to assimilate. Gojo, however, is defeated by Toji, who then, you know, tracks Riko down, and kills her right in front of Geto by shooting her dead. So yeah, it's pretty heavy all of a sudden, and Geto is there in the belief that Gojo has also been killed, and has a fight with Toji that is very one-sided, unfortunately for him. Toji kicks his ass, and it's rough. It's rough to watch. As soon as this happens, Toji goes to the founder, gets his money, and this guy, Sanada, is basically in charge of a cult that wishes for the star to, like, break down, which requires the person that Riko is assimilating with to die, or, like, go out of hand, their powers to go out. It's a lot. I don't know, it's like a doomsday thing. It's a cult, you know, they do cult things, they're quirky. Anyway, not important for this video itself. But after this, Toji is leaving, and he runs into Gojo, who is still alive. Gojo slaps out some banger one-liners, decides he is the Buddha, and destroys Toji very easily. And this is essentially whenever you realize, oh, Gojo is, in fact, the strongest, until he's not later, but shut up. After seeing Riko die right in front of him, Geto starts to really decline mentally. He realizes how awful people can be, because this cult sees this dead 14-year-old girl and claps. And that's just all he can think about from then on, and he begins to hate non-sorcerers. And this deep-seated hatred just evolves over time after he speaks to different people, sees multiple friends die, and it basically enrages him until he meets two young girls who have been abused by an entire village, and it just makes him break down to the point that he just murders everyone in this village and save these two girls. And so this sets him on the path of being a villain, while Gojo is just in complete shock that his best friend would do this, of all people. And so it's a deeply traumatizing experience for both of them, obviously. And then this all comes to a head whenever we reach the movie, because that's the end of Premature Death in Hidden Inventory. It just kind of ends in that tragic way, and all of this is all accumulated into 5 episodes, which is crazy because the story is just really good at this point. But then you get to the movie, right? This is 10 years later. Geto has a cult, which he created from the old cult that I had mentioned during Hidden Inventory, where he basically just took it over, and he has a surplus of non-sorcerers that he uses to get money and curses from. And so, with this power, he's basically saving up curses to destroy Jujutsu Society. He hears about a child curse, is what she is. Her name is Rika, not to be confused with Rico from earlier. She has a curse that is attached to a boy named Yuta, and she is considered the most powerful curse ever made. And this is something that Geto wants, obviously, because he could win the wars that he is starting with Jujutsu Society. Gojo sort of adopts Yuta in a way. He brings him to the school with him. He teaches him how to use his power, how to fight curses, and all that. Yuta and Geto do come to head. Geto trying to basically hurt Yuta's friends in front of him to get that anger out of him. And he does technically succeed, but probably not in the way he wanted to, because Yuta gets the power of love and kicks his ass. Whenever Geto is on his last legs, he starts to walk away from the fight, trying to reevaluate what to do, and then he runs into Gojo, and he decides enough is enough, and just sits there and talks to Gojo one more time before Gojo has no choice but to end him. And it's a sad scene to watch for a lot of people, because these are two best friends who were rivals, and some would even say roommates in a way. I think they were. So anyway, it is Geto's full story, despite the fact that you see him throughout the rest of it, interestingly, and that is because for the rest of the story, whenever stitches are in his head, his body is controlled by a curse named Kenjaku instead. And so this pretty much ends Geto's story at that point, aside from a few parts that could be noteworthy, like whenever his body on its own, through muscle memory purely, stops Kenjaku from going after Gojo for just a moment, though it doesn't stop him completely, but it's still a moment of, oh, even his body without the soul in it is trying to stop this guy. And that's how much he cared about Gojo, which is one of the main important parts of the story. So that is pretty much a summary of everything you need to know. And again, if you needed that and have never read Jujutsu Kaisen and don't plan to, then good for you. I hope this helps you kind of understand what you're getting into with this video. So anyway, this is Future Van doing this, by the way. Back to Past Van.
So we aren't necessarily focusing on that. There's about 1 million videos on YouTube going into depth about how great this arc is. Instead, we're going to discuss Suguru Geto's descent. Oh, wait, that's been done a lot. What about symbolism and his roommate's ship with Oh, yeah, that too. Are Gojo and Geto gay? Yeah, that's been done. Okay, so I recently watched a friend of mine finish the Zero Escape series, and it was a second time for me seeing it, so maybe I can discuss that instead and not even bother with Jujutsu Kaisen.
There are moments when a single snake make a world go extinct.
Oh, snails. Snails are always the answer. What am I talking about? Zero Escape. You should play Zero Escape. It's good. Don't mind the last game. It's good. Oh, video. Yeah, video. I'm talking about Geto, obviously. He's the snail to Gojo, but also lacking in a shell. Okay, listen. No, come back. Don't end off the video, please. There is suffering and a cause to suffering. Geto is following a line of Buddhist teachings, while Gojo, the honored one, has already reached enlightenment. Suguru needs protection. Suguru Geto needs snails. Snails in the story about Buddha protect the Buddha's head from sunlight. In the ED of Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2 for Hidden Inventory, Geto needs protection from rain. And Gojo has the umbrella, but is too late because the rain ends up letting up. Because he's, fucking around, fucking petting a cat, he's just vibing. And Geto is, trying to stay dry and can't really go anywhere, and he's stagnating. It's very symbolic. It's very symbolic. Anyway, during this scene, what is Geto next to? Fucking snail that sinks back into its shell when he comes near it. Almost as if Gojo's way of processing PTSD has made him focus so much on himself and trying to get stronger, while Geto's has made him less open to talking about his pain, even if it's incredibly evident on his face, but for some reason nobody can see it. So yeah, there's a lot to unpack with this character, many things that can't be said without talking about Mr. Honored One over there, but we'll get to him. So anyway, Buddhism, right? Used in a lot of media, as we know. Demon Slayer also uses it quite a bit. This is my first time really getting super into discussing Buddhism, so I may miss a few things, so feel free to mention anything or comment on things you noticed if you would like to after this video, because I would love to read other takes and thoughts on it, especially as someone learning about it, and also as a, Demon Slayer development content creator, I would love to know more things about it. Well, to get to the obvious out of the way, Suguru Geto is called the Buddha by the two women he helps in Jujutsu Kaisen 0, and he wears traditional monk garb throughout. He has an incredibly Machiavellian manga art piece done of him for a cover page at the end of Hidden Inventory. Yada yada yada. Yes, you get the picture. I'm a little bit more focused on the relevance of other important things, like snails, but we will be working our way back around to the importance of the Buddhist symbolism for Geto's character. So yeah, snails are actually symbolically attached to Suguru Geto in multiple ways. There is the obvious ED, where he makes contact with the snail, and it recoils from him, all while he waits on Satoru to bring him an umbrella. The snails would normally protect the Buddha's head, as seen in the story of the Siddhartha, who will be known as the Buddha, whose head was protected by snails while he meditated. In the ED, Suguru Geto is in deep focus, anxious about something he's thinking about, while Satoru Gojo is just kind of vibing. Gojo's reached enlightenment, so you could read this as he is having protection from the rain, which he doesn't need, which is probably not far off considering Infinity would, probably protect him from the rain by this point if he wanted it to. Meanwhile, Geto is using a bag to protect his head and waiting underneath an overhead bridge on Gojo to arrive. Geto lacks the snail's shells and any protection. Considering how he also never learns reverse curse technique, it could also probably tie into how he lacks protection overall, while Satoru Gojo is immune to everything except an off-screen super sharp cutting attack, but logistics, I know. Anyway, Suguru Geto, however, has more ties to snails in a sense as well when looking at his super cool move, Uzumaki, which, never lands an attack except in the video games.
That's not true!
Which no one ever plays, because it's either destroyed by Yuta and the power of love, even though, Kenjaku can still use it later, or it's blocked by a man with a fucking katana and friendship. For some reason. Anyway, Uzumaki is obviously a spiral-based move and it's based on spiral shells that snails use. Spirals often carry a cheerful symbol in Japan, as it is often used to celebrate festivals, and in a sense, we can see why Suguru Geto would be tied to Uzumaki, as he is a man focused so much on the past and when the days were good, that it's corrupted his every step forward from then on. That's one of the reasons we only see younger versions of those who pass away, is it's to show how those younger days were an ideal time for them before the world became more and more bleak and grim. Basically before Toji came along and fucked everything up. Uzumaki may be something many think of Junji Ito for, since I would argue it made the word Uzumaki more popular overseas, where many people succumb to horrors brought upon them via a spiral that constantly gets out of hand and sends people into frenzies or outright kills them. Many analysis videos have been done on the topic, but for the point of this analysis, the interesting aspect is how the spiral is morbidly turned into something dark. Geto's Uzumaki ability makes use of thousands of curses that are brought about by darker aspects of humanity and people's dark thoughts. Throughout Jujutsu Kaisen 0, Geto wears a smile and an almost childish exterior in the way that he mocks non-sorcerers, and Shoko, before 0, at the very end of Premature Death, even calls his thinking childish, during their meeting. I would even go as far as to say it sometimes doesn't even feel like the same person in Hidden Inventory arc, and that's because it's really not. Or rather, there's a significant difference between the Geto we meet before Premature Death and after. In a sense, Premature Death is not only about Haibara or Riko, it is also about Geto and his mental premature death. Another interesting thing about his fighting, other than Uzumaki, is that he never reveals a domain expansion, which he does have several curses who can use a domain expansion, but he himself never does, and that could be due to his imagination potentially being too violent, perhaps. There's many videos going into detail on why they think this could be. They all make valid points. This is only my interpretation of it. But when we see Megami creating his domain, he says, obviously, it's up to interpretation. And Geto thinks of his curses as disgusting parts of humans.
Humans? I meant non-sorcerers, sorry.
As someone who consumes these curses and feels disgusting inside from consuming them, it wouldn't be far off to suspect that emotions could play a factor in why he never manages to create one. Of course, that's conjecture and my own thoughts on why he is never revealed to have one. I mean, Yuki's fucking expansion killed her.
Are you sure about that?
Actually, Yuki doesn't even have a domain expansion. I'm just insane. Also, Uzumaki has hit someone and killed them. It was Yuki. Yeah. I apologize. Please take me out back and shoot me. I have no words for how I have wronged you all. I think it's the way that Uzumaki was used in that moment that made me kind of forget that that's how, she dies, and I assumed Black Hole was a domain expansion for some reason. I don't know why, but, it is not, and I'm insane. So anyway, but I do think it might lead a little bit more credit to my theory of why people may not have a domain expansion, or the more powerful sorcerers don't, aside from Gojo, and then also Yuta also has it. I could see a domain expansion of Yuki's killing her as well. But yeah, that's neither here nor there though, and I apologize for how incorrect I was, and yep. Anyway, continuing on.
So I can see Geto's killing him easy. I think we end up forgetting how difficult these expansions typically are to use due to the final arc where everyone just sort of uses one, and also since two characters who use one, Gojo and Sukuna, are not going to hurt themselves with theirs. And it's just, they get used so often in the last arc that I think we just forget how difficult they're meant to be to use early on. Final arc's a bit of a mess. It's confirmed Gojo most likely would have lived through this battle if he had subscribed to B-Rage and liked the video and commented about things he liked, things he disliked, and maybe started discussions about it as well, which is kind of a crazy call out by Gege, but like I said, the last arc's the best. I don't know why you wrote that. Anyway, moving on. There is an irony. What the Star Plasma Vessel group tries to strive for is what Geto comes to want in a way, but he changes the devotion from Tengen to himself and curses in a way, ironically using his abilities for good to help others to further his goals, even though he looks down on them so much. While the Star Plasma group intends to make Tengen have to evolve and only worship them as their deity, whether it kills them or not, Geto's followers desire for humanity to evolve and be able to combat curses or make them obsolete, while Geto simultaneously uses these curses himself. Sonata, the Plasma Group's non-founder guy that Toji meets, got what he wanted at the end. He died for the star, but not in the way he suspected, and specifically for the Star Plasma Vessel. I could not imagine Geto calling him up of all people on that stage if he didn't suspect or know he was the main person responsible for calling for the murder of Riko. By the way, Gojo left Geto's body intact, so was Toji just overthinking it when he said he would leave Geto alive in case his curse is released? Also, does Kenjaku still have the same curses when he unleashes Uzumaki, so Gojo didn't even destroy them? I guess we just don't know. Also, by the way, a reminder, Kenjaku grabbing a katana is stronger than Uzumaki against a katana. Insane behavior. So anyway, another thing I want to discuss during this video is how Geto's hair evolves over time. That was actually what the whole idea of this video originally was going to be, and it just kind of, it evolved alongside it. Yeah, you know what? That's cool. Anyway, chronologically, he keeps his hair up in a slightly unkempt bun with his bangs sorted down in front in hidden inventory art.
I also find it really interesting from this article, for also on top of that, where it's discussing lobe gauging as well, which obviously the larger ears that Geto has are meant to be symbolizing the Buddha in their own. Oh, yes, you are so right, Rhyme. Thank you for your little input. I hope everyone heard that. It was very important to the lore. But yes, it was very common to stretch earlobes back then using gauges, as it is obviously common now. In order to symbolize giving up worldly desires, the Buddha actually removes his gauges, which is why you see his earlobes so long without the gauges in. So I think it's like really interesting that JK0 Geto obviously keeps his, and I think that kind of adds to the whole this is the Buddha. He is representing the Buddha, but he is not enlightened. And so that's just an interesting way of looking into it as well.
He's clearly much more disciplined than Gojo and works as a moral compass friend. The bun being slightly messy could show signs of his not-so-structured nature, as he is more than willing to fight higher-ups if Riko doesn't want to assimilate with Tengen. It is also mentioned and seen in the classrooms / basketball scene that while he is told to not use his curse technique, since it may cause disruptions given that he's literally summoning curses, Gojo can bring it out of him to go against those rules when he starts to pick petty fights. I also believe it to show signs of his mental state in a way, as there is a scene between his early stage of Geto's personality and his late stage personality, directly after the shower scene. His hair remains down and seems unbrushed right after leaving the shower scene, and it is the only instance I think we see of him having it fully down until his death scene, and other than the scene during season 2, where you see him with his 2 daughters that he saves from the village. I think in this scene he's generally at his I don't know what I want anymore stage, and it's where he blatantly looks exhausted. He sees someone like Haibara with so much hope still, and then someone like Yuki, who he believes to have too much of a free spirit, and questions them. His cynicism feels incredibly hopeless in this scene, and when Yuki pops up and says her desire, the hopeful look on his face screams more words than any dialogue ever could. Take notes, final arc. Take notes. Anyway, keeping his hair up after that is like building a front up. During the village scene, it's showing a level of structure as a formality in a way. Like, he's doing what society is expecting him to. Like, what Jujutsu society is expecting him to. This is something he shares with Gojo, actually. When Gojo has his hair up due to his blindfold, one could argue that this is when his walls are up. I mean, he's literally overstimulated if he doesn't wear his blindfold. So it's not that he can't see you, it's that everyone else can't see him. And that's why he has it off during his final encounter with Geto, I believe. The only person to ever see him for who he really is, and why he has it off during the final weeks that he's alive. While Gege claimed that Satoru had a 4 to 6 chance of winning against Sukuna, Satoru himself stated he had no chance. Why build up walls around yourself when you're ready to go all out? And that's why for 10 years, Geto had the same mindset as Gojo developed for that fight. Why hide himself from the world? Why build up walls and a facade? Do what gives you hope. Note to audience, please don't do what either of them did. Be good people and be safe. And that's why I think Geto's hairstyle becomes even more significant. He's not just lowering all his walls and showing his true colors, because there's still a side to him nobody is seeing. They see his dark side only by the end. And the only ones who get to see his true colors are his daughters and Gojo at his end. There's still a barrier, but it's now in reverse, where only his darker side is on display in front of other people, and he enforces this with a childish smile that he constantly wears. I suppose that's another way of signaling the inverse between him and Gojo, and showing how Gojo hides his more dark side by keeping walls up, with his hair also up as a nod to how he is imitating Geto when he was his moral compass, while on the other hand, Geto hides behind a wall that is closer to Gojo's obsession with the strong and disliking that those who are strong have to kill themselves protecting the weak. It is also interesting to return to the snail imagery when we consider the philosophy of hair and how removing one's hair is a sign of removing earthly attachments and letting go, and is almost a requirement to becoming a monk, but Geto continues to allow his to grow even while posing as a monk. Hell, even while posing as the Buddha. He has not let go of any earthly attachments. Heck, he literally wears a Gojo. He is not over the past, and it drives him to doing things so desperately to remove what he deems as a plague to the world. And in that sense, he is the Bodhisattva to Gojo's Buddha, masquerading as the Buddha.
Speaking of which, that is an interesting thing to consider, that Geto's entire story really hinges on his past, really, when you think about it. And yet, notably, a key word that he says throughout the story is missing from his overall background. Not that word. I mean the word family. Geto brings up family quite often during Hidden Inventory arc, and he says it constantly to his cult members. But notably, he has no care for his parents whatsoever. Whenever Gojo confronts him about killing his parents, he says he never considered them family to begin with. His family being notable non-sorcerers, which could easily just add up to he's become a homicidal guy who is broken, so he's just lost it. But that doesn't really do it justice, because again, Geto is very focused on the past and cares very deeply for Gojo still, and very deeply for his classmates still. So it really doesn't add up why he would really just care nothing for his family at all. And yet, we see multiple times that found family is incredibly important to Geto. whenever he speaks to Riko's maid, like, he is saying, oh, so you're her family, like, you are the person taking care of her. And there's also a moment where we see him notably fighting a member of Q, this elderly man, who was treated terribly by his own family. And for some reason, this scene just feels like there's a lot to leave up to interpretation for. You see that Geto seems to really have a lot of those similar traits, where he had a family that didn't see curses like he did. And it makes you wonder, like, is that how Gege left it for us to interpret? That his family perhaps just found him odd because he can do these things with curses. It also makes you wonder, hey, is that why Geto didn't seem to receive any of the help that he needed when he was spiraling out of control? There's just a lot to unpack with that. Before I forget, I should also mention Toji's cursed spirit that finds Geto and calls him mommy in a very disturbing scene. And how Geto, despite this creature being a form of his trauma from the past, still keeps it and even raises it, as far as Jujutsu Kaisen 0 shows. It's very, very interesting to see him become what is essentially the mother of curses after, consuming so many of them, which, consuming these must have an effect on his psyche and his mental state, because he is literally intaking all the bad parts of people and their minds and things like that. So there's just a lot to unpack, and a lot that I think Gege has left up for interpretation for this character, and in a way, I really like the writing for it. I think it's incredibly interesting to delve into.
In some versions, people would be justified to see Toji as closer to the tale of Mara, but it is Geto who directly opposes Gojo, the Buddha, and is the one whose ideals most align to Mara's in the sense of not helping people reach enlightenment. The art of his pose, with curses having him posed in the opposite direction of the mudra he was referencing. For the record, I learned about this from Tepanesis on Tumblr, and we'll link the post in the description. It goes over so many things that I would have never found out on my own about Buddhism and JJK, because I am not very knowledgeable on the subject, just curious about it, so definitely check it out for information on a lot of characters. They go into depth on hand symbols and a whole lot of other things. I would like to go into more detail on their content, but unfortunately I do not believe that they are currently active. I requested to do further analysis on some of their things, but they never got back to me. So while I didn't go too into depth on it here, you can check out the link in the description to check out their content and read up more yourself if you are interested. So a lot of people I've seen say that Gojo fumbled Geto.
The point is, I don't really have too much to offer. But when it comes to you, I give everything I have just to make you happy. So, let me ask you, will you marry me?
By being a kind of bad friend for not trying to help him or noticing he was losing sanity. While I do think he is quite dismissive at times, reminder that they are young and people process trauma very differently. Geto saw Riko die right in front of him. Geto and Gojo both experienced being on the brink of death, though Gojo was meant to die in that moment, while Geto was spared due to the lack of knowledge surrounding his ability. Gojo's reaction to near death and losing a friend is to keep getting stronger so it doesn't happen again as long as he's around. It is also likely to do with Gojo acknowledging that nobody understands him and his entire life being based on how strong he is. Geto's trauma relates to how important duty and the need for everything to happen for a reason is. Geto processes life in a way that may be very relatable for some, where things occur for reasons, and if there's no justification to do something, then it's unnecessary. In an odd way, it is a very Buddhist-centric way of thinking due to something in Buddhism called karma. Laws exist that dictate the flow of reasons things happen in Buddhism, which Jujutsu Kaisen itself covers in many character and curse philosophies. The seasonal laws related to temperature seasons and other physical events. The biological laws related to seeds and physical organic order. The physical law related to the process of consciousness or to the nature of consciousness, which recognizes objects, etc. The karmic law related to the law of karma, good deeds and bad deeds and their results, and the natural laws related to certain events, the general law of cause and effect, causality, conditionality, and unconditionality. Trying to further interpret it will just carry over into imagination. Only a fully enlightened Buddha, i.e. Gojo, can know the intricate workings of karma. Geto is focusing mostly on the natural laws and the laws of karma. Ever notice in the anime the end discussion when Gojo, Geto, and Shoko discuss words that get stuck in your head as muscle memory? So let's talk about that. It's not a secret that Geto does sort of say the word monkey a bit often.
Hello, monkeys!
Yeah, too much. Okay, so, like, as much as it is a meme to a lot of people, there is an explanation for this and why Gege wrote it into the story how he did. An amazing Tumblr post by Renwan Maxing is linked in the description as they explain and discuss this much better than I ever could. To give a basic synopsis, as someone not nearly as familiar with Buddhism and its teachings, Jujutsu Kaisen's characters each have a Buddhist principle or parable that they follow, or at least most of them do, though I have not studied all of them. Some characters have the same parable, which is the case for Geto and Toji. The parable is of the three wise monkeys, which is a play on the words see not, hear not, speak not. Essentially, while Toji represents the invisible man and is a play on the infamous Sun Wukong and is symbolic in that sense, Geto's meaning of the three blind monkeys parable is taken in a more literal sense. Non-sorcerers can't see, hear, or speak of curses as they are unaware they exist. So how do three monkeys who cannot hear, see, or speak become wise? Geto's answer is that they evolve through survival. Obviously, this never occurs in the grand scheme of the story unless you want to count Maki, but that's more so the Heavenly Pact and learning from other fighters. You know, if that's how you want to read into it, maybe, but that's not exactly what Geto's idea was in the first place. But whether it would work or not is not the point to the philosophy. The point is that it is his answer to the philosophy. While Toji's answer is to continue in blindness, not respecting himself nor others, and finding freedom in that respect, being the only one to ever nearly kill the Buddha himself, ignore the half a body on the ground over in the last arc over there.
I lose.
Geto's answer is that non-sorcerers can evolve, which is an oddly brighter way of thinking than you would think a mass genocider of non-sorcerers would have in this situation. Toji seeing no way out, while to Geto this is the only way out. Though, in Jujutsu Kaisen 0, one could be forgiven to assume Geto has become to focus on the evolution of sorcerers instead, given his excitement that Yuta continues to grow stronger in their fight, perhaps even equating it to a tough love approach where he knows that without Rika in that moment, he is far stronger than Yuta in his own, at his current power level. He's a silly man, it's okay. The way that we read into it, and the way that Kenjaku discusses it later, Geto could have won that fight, but goofed instead. He definitely wasn't killed by the power of love, according to Kenjaku, even though that's what it looked like a little bit, but whatever. I always love going on wikis for villains, by the way, and seeing, like, the longest list of crimes, right? Okay, so I got curious, and I wanted to go to Geto's villain wiki page, right? It's relatively short. His list of crimes is relatively short, but contains, like, you know, the 1,000 yards. It has, like, mass murder, patricide, and genocide, so it's still, you know, a beefy list, right? I just see vandalism, And it's just hilarious because I have genuinely seen such long lists on this site, so to see this tacked on, like they were trying to make it longer and make him seem more villainous, like it's like Jujutsu Kaisen Zero Geto is trying to plead his case for why he gets to join a villain club, and he goes, I killed a village, I killed my parents, I've killed cult members, oh, and I committed some banger vandalism. This is probably funnier in my head. I just love the absurdity of tacking on a petty crime after all that. Also, can we appreciate the way he says to Yuki we could just kill all non-sorcerers in response to, you know, how he thinks they could get rid of curses and assumes he'll be reprimanded for saying that out loud. And when he's not, he just looks at her like, girl, no, say I'm wrong. Are you okay, fam? Like, gosh, I love that Kenjaku has fights with people who knew Geto, but I do hate that Kenjaku's influence on others feels underused due to that. Like, Yuki makes sense because she's who he first began to consider two paths from, and she herself still hasn't fully committed to a path, ironically. Just ran away from the system while she tried to fix it, which kind of makes sense why she ends up getting split in half, because she's literally split between sides, in a way. And yeah, Yuta killing Kenjaku is fair, I guess. I still like to say he died due to the comedy battle, because it's funnier that way, and makes me feel more sane, but yeah. Yuta finishes what he started. Yeah, Yuta, back to Geto, I don't care. God also, at least animated, I'm not sure if it's the budget or if it was intentional given what we know about how Mappa treats their animators and stuff like that. But when Geto is spiraling, faces just look so much more detailed than the last few scenes of premature death. When he reaches his breaking point, becomes Mr. Silent Genocide Man, a lot of these faces are less detailed around him, including his own, and again, not sure if this is intentional, but it reminds me of statues where there's less details if it's depicting someone of a higher power, and people like scribes were depicted with more details to show flaws, so the higher beings were shown to be more superior. I think it could be a thing, but maybe not. It could also, again, be a budget thing. It's just how I kind of read into it a little bit. But, like, it's his declined mental state by then probably could be a factor in why, perhaps. The movie kind of backtracks on that, and anyone notice how much older Geto looks there compared to when Kenjaku takes over his body? It's like it's meant to feel even more unnatural in a way. Well, I'm not positive if that's the intention, but that's just how it felt to me while I watched it, at least, and it adds a lot to the character to me to interpret that way, but, like, you know, tell me what you guys think about that. Honestly, I had started this video as a joke a little bit because I'm only kind of a passing fan of Jujutsu Kaisen, and it was kind of just like me going, oh, I need to get back into the swing of making videos because it's been a while. But then I got hooked on Tumblr again because of Esperoba. And I think what got me so invested in this analysis was all of the really nice people in the community on there, though I didn't speak much on there other than a few posts. The fact that one or two people who read things I said and posted things I read that really resonated with me made this video so much more interesting to make and made me feel that I was contributing more to a discussion. There's been so many videos of not only Jujutsu Kaisen, but also done solely on Geto, that I did not expect to really have anything new for anyone, and that I would either be memeing or eventually scrap it, which isn't far off from how I've been with this video. It's a little bit memey, but like I've also been actually delving into stuff on it. But the fans of this series and all the details that have been included in the manga and anime created such a unique experience where it feels so much more like everyone notices different things, and in a way that's the beauty of not just Geto, but with anyone people resonate with, like Nanami, Itadori, Fushiguro, Maki Zenin. Like, there's so many characters who have a rich personality and arc, and that's pretty neat. So while I go on about disliking how Jujutsu Kaisen ended, or like how its overall narrative had ended, and I kind of like to meme on the final arc a little bit, but that's because it's coming from a place of adoration where I see the amazing writing it has and is capable of, and fall in love with aspects of it. Hell, it made a mass genocider a beloved character. But yeah, that's my take.
So, The gacha game made new Geto and Gojo content, of course, like after I recorded all of this. That's him and Gojo being a bickering married couple and how to handle a mission, and something noteworthy mentioned about the curse manipulation is that applying it to cursed objects may cause the object to go haywire. This is an interesting thing to consider, because, like, I and many other users on Tumblr have had, like, a running joke question about how the heck did Geto find out about his ability? Like, what possessed him to swallow a big orbed curse in the first place? Was it like an Itadori thing where it was just super in the moment? Like, I have so many questions, especially whenever, like, his family isn't curse users. So, like, who told him? Like, who told this man that he could do this? So I got curious about something that shows my lack of knowledge of things in the Buddhist temples and in Japanese history. So I originally saw this armrest, right? And I was like, wow, this man wasted some hard-earned cult dollars on some useless thing like this. And I know this pose is very symbolic for the temple. I just have never thought about this armrest before. And I originally thought it seemed really extra. Like, uncharacteristically extra, in my opinion. And now knowing the point of it, I still think for Geto to have it, it's still very extra of him. I actually sent out a post on Tumblr to ask if anyone had seen something about it, and 2 weeks had passed, and I chalked it up to just Geto using funds irresponsibly to look extra. So I had just kind of forgot about it a little bit and was not gonna mention it. 2 weeks later, someone by the name of Tuve Lo on Tumblr pulled through and actually reblogged my post sending a link going over camp furniture, like, which they mentioned is used by Daimyo. They were also fairly common in the Edo and Meiji period. So it's used instead of chairs, which is very cool because, again, I think this could be the first time I've actually seen one of these armrests. That all being said, this temple has chairs, Geto. I know you're going for that temple priest look and all, but you ain't a priest or a daimyo, my guy. Oh, by the way, side note, there's a panel going around of younger Geto with his hair length, like it's shoulder length hair, right? And people keep crediting it as from Jujutsu Kaisen. Now, those of you who know what I'm talking about, know. But those posting this and saying it's from Jujutsu Kaisen, you and I know where it's from, okay? We are not your parents. Admit what you've done. It's okay. It's okay. I'm not going to tell anyone, okay? But as a wrap-up here, yeah, I'm not super consistent with video making, and I'd like to get more videos out as the new year just rolled around, and that's my resolution. I have Demon Slayer Hashira themes video in the works, as well as maybe another video on Jujutsu Kaisen, this time on Nanami. Also maybe branch out into other media, such as, like, Disney and Pixar animated movies, and possibly games that are not Danganronpa. Maybe, like, I don't know, Final Fantasy XIV content, if anyone would be interested. I think the videos are mostly just going to be things I'm interested in talking about, more so than strictly Demon Slayer. Not to say it's not still one of my favorite things to discuss, but it'll be more than just that from now on. So I hope if any of those piques your interest, you may stick around for more, and I'll see you guys next time. Have a pleasant day, everyone.
Hey guys, thanks for checking out the video. If you enjoyed it, well, I do not stream on Twitch, but I have a pretty cool worstie who does, named Greeny the Goblin. He started a new game show called Greeny What, which I have participated in twice. So if you would like to join in the fun, you should check out his Twitch stream and check out Greeny What. There's a link in the description and probably up here in the cards to click on to go and watch them if you're interested. Well, I'll see you there. Bye-bye.
Shit, you want to win $50, right? That's, well, it's too bad.
I said $1 million.
You said $1 million? Oh my god, that is way
a
outside
couple
of the budget.
zeros, yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
unfortunately, it's just a gift card.